Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse Measure. If you haven't done so yet, hit the guy on the lotus pedal down below and benefit from all these wonderful questions and the insights from viewers like you. Please send me a question or a comment so we can keep the dialogue rolling. And if there's something that you can't find answers to on YouTube or elsewhere, maybe I can be of help because I'm getting old and I have some wisdom about songwriting, at least I think. I don't know, maybe it's all foolishness, but if a fool persists in his folly, he will become wise, as William Blake once said. All right, so we have a question from Ronald from Sheboygan. How do you know when a lyric is doing real emotional work as opposed to just sounding poetic? And can you point to a line you kept because it felt true, even though it broke your usual rules? Yeah, so it's very tempting to just be a poet or just to sound fancy and use poetic words, especially when you don't know what you're really trying to say. And so, I don't know, as this is happening, I'll constantly ask myself, do I feel something from this? Is there some emotion? Is it, so just like in fiction writing, you want to cut any line that doesn't develop a character or move the plot forward. That's what Kurt Vonnegut said. So I think the same is true in songs, but maybe it's not about a story or narrative, but it's about developing emotion or moving some kind of thought or mental formations towards something that you are getting to a point. And maybe that point is what your chorus is about, so you're providing details for that. So that in that way, a chorus is like your argument. And the verse gives you all the details that provide, give basically the ammo to prove the argument correct. But sometimes you just have to cut through and just say something in a non-poetic way, so that it can cut through and the listener can get it. They might get bogged down in all your imagery. And I always like, even though I like to be poetic in my lyrics, I certainly fail at times to be clear about what I'm trying to say. So sometimes you just got to cut through and stop being poetic and just say something straightforward. And then the rest of the lyrics will all of a sudden bloom because the listener will know, oh, so that's what he was talking about when he said this. Okay? So an example I have from this is from my last album, which was recorded at Octave Records in Boulder, Colorado. It's a song called Just Fall Apart. And the first verse is pretty straightforward as far as the lyrics, but you'll hear how I get much more poetic in the second verse, and then I need to hone it in and rope it in. So you were asking for an example where I cut the poetic and just tried to get the emotion across, the emotional immediacy. So this is an example of that. So it starts out pretty direct. I could open up a bottle and drown my broken heart, or numb out all the memory from the hurting part. I could drive on out of town and make a brand new start, or just fall apart. Or just fall apart. Okay, so that first verse is pretty direct, It's talking about drinking, moving out of town, numbing, the pain. Okay, so that's pretty easy to understand. But then when the second verse comes around, I get much more poetic and maybe a little bit cryptic, okay? Could I trifle with an eyeful to light this blinding void? Unwrap me like a prison that your absence destroys. Who wants a sad sack for a body with a soul begging to depart? Cry and let it just fall apart. So I let it fall apart. Okay, so that one is much more poetic and much more cryptic, Could I trifle with an eyeful to light this blinding void? So this is like to find, basically like a one-night stand, some good-looking person to have a fling with. Unwrap me like a present that your absence destroys. So it's a play on the present versus like a Christmas present versus the present moment. They're going to unwrap you, which is a play on undressing you, but also letting you shed all your pain. But of course, the absence is what the message is there. That the person who is gone is what is basically defining the moment. Okay, who wants a sad sack for a body, with a soul begging to depart? Right. So who would want to be with someone like me in this case? This is just all I am is a sad sack of a body with a soul begging to depart. Okay, so that is getting much more poetic. So then I at that point when I was writing this, when I knew a bridge was coming up, I was like, I need something a little bit more direct. So I just need to say directly what I mean without any metaphor and without any figurative language. So here's the bridge. I need someone to need me the way that I need you. But it's a hard leap of faith when the sign at the gate says. And then I get poetic again. So that I need someone to need me the way I need you is just like saying it straight up and going for that emotional immediacy and just saving the listener from, trying to figure out a difficult poetic lyric, okay? But then I get poetic again, I'm sorry to say. So I just touch on that just to ground the listener. I need someone to need me the way that I need you. So they're grounded now, so I can then launch again into the poetic. So it's some kind of balance between giving beautiful poetic images, some grounding, and hopefully those poetic images are also grounded in the five senses so they can still make sense. But you want to also just kind of cut through at times and just say what you mean. And I think that's great for a refrain, especially in a song like this where you have verse, refrain, that's the structure, or in a chorus that you say directly, like, what am I trying to say in this song? That way it gives some grounding, some kind of anchor for your listener to understand what the hell you're talking about. So just to finish this bridge, but it's a hard leap of faith when the sign at the gate says, abandon all hope and drop the end of your rope. No soul left to say. I won't hold that note for as long as I do on the album because I haven't warmed up my voice. But if you want to hear that note go on forever, you can listen to the recording down below. I'll put a link to it. But so those lyrics are poetic, but they're still grounded. Like it's a hard leap of faith. Okay, so that's poetic. That's philosophical. It comes from Kierkegaard. So this leap of faith that you're going to take a leap of faith into another relationship. And that is a huge leap of faith, especially when you're already heartbroken and you're already devastated. Why in the hell would you want to get into another relationship? Okay? So even though I need someone to need me the way that I need you, it's an extremely hard thing to do because you're so wounded and hurt. And how could you not be defensive? And how could you ever trust again? So that's where that comes from. It's a hard leap of faith when the sign at the gate says. Okay, so the sign of the gate is the gates of hell, and that's where I am in this song. I'm in total anguish in hell. And if you think of that idea of hell as being the absence of God, and that's what real hell is. It doesn't have to be this fire and brimstone and stuff like that. It's just the absence of God. So in this case, it's the absence of my love. And so the sign at the gate says, abandon all hope. Drop the end of your rope. So abandon all hope is, from Dante. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. And then drop the end of your rope. So the end of your rope is like you're at the end of your rope, like you're about ready to fall off, either die or whatever. So just give up. Drop that end of the rope. Don't even keep trying. There's no soul left to save. Okay? My soul's gone. It's departed. It's been destroyed by this heartbreak. But then I add the word mine. Okay, so it's not only there's no soul inside me left to save, but there's no soul out there that could save mine. Okay, it's a pretty darn bleak bridge. But I think the emotional immediacy is there, and I think why I feel like it works is that it's grounded from the very beginning with I need someone to need me the way I need you. So people understand what I'm talking about, and then you can layer on the metaphors and the poetic language. But also, be careful with that. So to make sure that even the poetic stuff is grounded in the senses, so people can make sense of it. And it's nice when it's tied to an idea, and it's not just a stream of images. Although that's very cool, especially in Bob Dylan's music. But if you want to be just poetic, you can do that. But I think what we want to do is to communicate something emotionally too. So. Anyways, I hope that helps, and good luck with that. If you want to put an example down below in the comments, I'd love to see that. And if you have a specific example that you want help with, I'd be happy to take a shot at it. So best of luck with your songwriting and your spiritual practice, and I'll see you all next time on Muse Measure.